this point in time. Council agenda, Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, Township Council agenda meeting of June 9th, 2020. Introduction, posting of notice. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the Municipal Building on December 18th, 2019, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in the Daily Record and the New York Star Ledger on December 23rd, 2019, and was forwarded by fax to the local newspapers and local radio stations on December 18th, 2019. Note, council meetings are videotaped and aired on Cablevision, Public Access Channel 21 at 11 a.m. on Sundays, and they're also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net. At this time, I please ask you to stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Mr. Carriffy?
Here.
Ms. Grignani?
Here.
Ms. McCarthy?
Here.
Ms. Peterson?
Here.
Mr. DePiero?
Here.
Also in attendance are Mayor Michael Floriano, Business Administrator Keith Kazmark, CFO Ann Cucci, and Township Clerk Colette Madden. We have a quorum. Council President, may I begin?
Please.
Upcoming meetings, there's a typo here. It is not 6/19, it is actually 6/16/2020 at 7 p.m., the regular meeting, and 7/7 at 7 p.m., the agenda meeting. Approval of minutes, these are going to be the minutes on the agenda for the next meeting for approval. At this point in time, we're going to go into presentations and reports. I hand it over to the mayor. Mayor, are you there?
My apologies, I was on mute. Before I get to the proclamation that I'm presenting this evening, first I want to talk about two resolutions that are on the agenda this evening. That's Resolution R 2020-122 and 123. Apologies for them being so late and not in your hands a lot earlier. But as you will see, these resolutions are very important in order to open up our town and to help our small businesses. Most notably, and the ones I'm concerned about, are the mom and pop restaurants that we have. These are to help them make it a bit easier to have outdoor dining. And I will leave it to the business administrator to give you more detail and answer questions on that. But this is something that many people in the township and township employees have worked very hard on to get this done, and will continue to work hard on to get this done. We want to do everything we can to help some of our businesses here, especially the restaurants that have been around for such a long time. So I'm really hoping to have those resolutions passed this evening.
I'm sure they will be. That's a very good idea.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Council President. It's well, not only is it something near to dear in my heart, which is of course eating, but I would say really I have a very special place in my heart for people who open up their own business, the sweat and tears that go into having your own business, the worrying, the planning, all the hard work that goes into it. And I want to make sure that they're able to thrive here in Parsippany. So we've been bending over backwards to make this happen.
Mayor, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I need a haircut. I have outdoor haircuts too?
Quite possibly, but Michael, considering what I just saw in the camera when you said that, you need to hold on to all the hair you have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Actually, Michael, they're opening up on the 22nd. If you want, you and I can make an appointment there together, and we'll go side by side. We'll get haircuts together.
I
or at least I'll get
tie my hair in a ponytail. so my wife is not too happy with that.
Oh my goodness, you're going to look like a hippie, which is not such a bad thing. Anyway.
There's nothing
Let me-
wrong with that. I'm just going to point
Exactly.
that out.
Exactly. Anyway, on to a more serious subject, which is always very relevant in the month of June, but certainly with what's been going on around lately. I'm introducing this proclamation on National Gun Violence Awareness Day, which was this past Friday, June 5th. Well, some of this is written in the past tense, by the way, in the current tense. So, June 5th, 2020. Whereas every day more than 100 Americans are killed by gun violence, on an average there are more than 13,000 homicides by gun every year. And whereas Americans are 25 times more likely to die in homicides by gun than people in other high-income countries. And whereas New Jersey has a gun-related death rate of 5.3 per 100,000 people. And whereas municipalities across the nation, including Parsippany, are working to end the senseless violence with evidence-based solutions. And whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories. And whereas the pandemic facing America has drastically impacted communities and individuals sheltering in place, which may result in situations where access to firearms results in increased risk in intimate partner violence gun deaths, suicide by gun, and unintentional shootings. And whereas in January 2013, Adia Pendleton, a teenager who marched in the presidential inauguration parade, was tragically shot and killed just weeks later, should now be celebrating her 23rd birthday. And whereas, to help honor Hadia and more than 100 Americans whose lives are cut short every day, and the countless survivors who are injured by shootings every day, a national coalition of organizations has designated June 5th, 2020, the first Friday in June, as the 6th National Gun Violence Awareness Day. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Hadia's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange. They chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods, and orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange in June, and the first Friday in June, June 5th, in 2020, to help raise awareness about gun violence. And whereas, by wearing orange on June 5th, 2020, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to keep our children safe. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Michael Soriano of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, declare the first Friday of June, June 5th, 2020, to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day, and I encourage all citizens to support efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. Thank you very much. That concludes my report. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, Township Attorney.
I have items for closed session tonight as indicated on the agenda, and I'll just note that the discussion with respect to Highlands is the attorney-client privilege discussion. We'll be joined by the Township Planner in closed session as well.
Thank you, Mr. Lott. Mr. Business Administrator.
Good evening, everyone. Just to bring everybody up to speed on where we are as a township with regard to our COVID-19 response. As of today, we have had 751 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the township. 667 of those cases are closed. And unfortunately, the number has ticked up since our last council meeting, and we've now had 80 residents pass away due to COVID-19. Very pleased to report to the council and to the public that this week has been our back to work week for all of our employees. As I reported at the last meeting, we have been transitioning in since the day after Memorial Day, starting with our building and construction department, which the inside outside work areas seem to be working very well. The building department and construction office are very busy with residents and business owners alike coming in to drop off applications or seek permits. So we're hopeful that we'll be bouncing back with regard to the revenue that department raises for the municipality. DPW started back up at full capacity last Monday on June 1st. Very pleased to report that the recycling center is now open for business. And I want to thank Greg Schneider for facilitating access to the recycling center. Apparently, a lot of people have been doing home projects and working on their yards. So now they have the ability to drop off that waste and debris down to the center. And Greg has been working with Chief Miller to make sure that all of our residents have safe entryway to the recycling center. Yesterday, all the other township employees reported back to work. And we are adjusting to that. And we are awaiting a decision, which I think will come later on this month, if not right around the July 4th holiday, where we will be allowing the public to enter our public buildings in order to receive services. I want to stress to all the residents of Parsippany-Troy Hills that our offices are all accessible to you by telephone or email. We are still conducting business, and we are still here to ensure that you receive the services that you and your family need. I would like to report just on a few things that Governor Murphy announced today. He announced that the stay-at-home order has now been lifted throughout the state. Outdoor gatherings, as of today, 100 people are permitted to gather together outdoors. That number is expected to be increased on June 25th to 250 people and on July 3rd to 500 people. Indoor gatherings, the rule there is that we are allowed 25% occupancy or 50 individuals, whichever number is less. And as Mayor Soriano indicated during his report, we have streamlined the special event outdoor seating permit process through the construction office and zoning department. Jen Veely, our director of that department, has been working diligently for the last number of days, facilitating questions and giving information to our restaurant owners throughout the township. I can say that we are doing everything we possibly can to streamline this process. We will ask the council tonight to take action to waive any fees associated with outdoor dining in order to take some of the burden off of our restaurants in Parsippany. And I also want to make mention that the only thing that we are asking for in providing some of the documentation, which by the way was very well detailed on Parsippany Focus earlier today, but we are looking for the applications to be submitted inclusive of a map. And the reason that we are doing that is we must ensure public safety. So if we are going to have outdoor dining near roadways or in parking lots, we have to ensure that it is safe. And I just want to remind everybody that a number of years ago, there was a situation in the borough of Hawthorne out in Passaic County where a person driving a vehicle, I think it was a truck actually, rode into a farmer's market and an individual died in that event. So with that in mind, we are making sure that we are accommodating all of our business owners, our restaurants, in order to be able to maximize the amount of people that they can serve at any one particular time in an outdoor setting. But working with Jen Veely and with Chief Miller, we are going to ensure that those areas are safe for folks to be able to dine in. Again, I do ask for the council's indulgence, and I appreciate Council President DiPiero your inferred support. I do know that these resolutions were a little late coming over the last day or two because we were putting the final touches on these to make sure that it was easy for our restaurant owners to be able to seek these permits. And finally, I just wanted to make a public statement that the municipal budget will be on the agenda for adoption. I believe at this point, either myself or Ann Cucci has fielded any questions that have come from the governing body and provided the necessary information to back up the answers to those questions so that the governing body is comfortable and has all the requisite information in order to adopt the budget a week from tonight. And that's all I have, Mr. Clerk.
Excuse
I
me.
apologize. Hold on one second. I apologize, everyone. I just need everybody to check their volume one more time. We're getting an echo. Ms. Grignani, if you can just check your volume just one more time and maybe lower it a tad bit, and everybody else, if they could also check their volume, because there was a little bit of an echo as the business administrator was speaking.
Mine was muted during that time, so it could not have been me.
It's not you, Mr. DePiero.
That's all I have, Mr. Clerk. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Excuse me, Keith. Excuse me, BA Kazmark. The applications for the restaurants to have outside dining, once it is submitted, and it is, will it still take about 10 days, as was stated in the Focus article, or are we trying to make that shorter period of time that the restaurants may have outdoor dining?
So Director Veely has been directed by my office to do it as quickly as she possibly can. I know that at least 2 were applied for today and approved today. So that is our goal.
Okay.
Keep in mind, Councilwoman, that outdoor dining is not permitted until June 15th, which is this coming Monday.
Yes.
So we're trying to push through as many of these applications as we can so that the restaurants can open up with the outdoor environment open this coming Monday.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick question. Sorry,
Hold
Janice,
on.
go ahead.
So I'm sorry, everyone. I'm going to ask one more time. Instead of checking your volume, when you look at your picture down below in the right-hand corner, the button to the left is the mute button. I ask that you hit that button if you are not speaking so we can avoid any type of echo. So if you're not speaking, hit the mute, and if you need to speak, then just unmute. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut anybody off, but go ahead and continue.
Janice, you go first.
No, I was going to ask, what criteria did we follow for the decision to bring back the employee?
So through you, Council President, to Council Member McCarthy, Janice, we followed much of what has been implemented by Morris County and some of the counties that surround us. We had a working group of administrators who obviously each municipality is unique and has their own set of needs, but we tried to mirror each other's policies. There were 2 memorandums that went out, one dated the 27th and one dated June 3rd, which outlined 23 policies and procedures which employees must follow in order to keep themselves and their coworkers safe. It talked about proper use of PPE, disinfection, utilizing work areas, utilizing common tools. It ran the gamut, and I'd be glad to circulate that to the council for your review. The second memo outlined employees that continue to have hardships, whether it be a child care issue or maybe a family member who lives in the same home who is susceptible or vulnerable to the COVID-19 virus. So we are making accommodations with those employees with use of benefit time, and also offering the federal government Department of Labor program, which is an FMLA that is specifically for the COVID-19 public health emergency. And I'd also just remind everybody that we have made a significant investment, which we expect to be reimbursed in full by through the CARES Act money, but we've retrofitted every office space that needed it within the township. So there are either glass partitions or plexiglass partitions, sneeze guards. All of that was installed and completed by Joe Janarone and his men prior to us reopening the front office staff on Monday.
And how does that fit in with opening up for the public? I mean, what requirements do you have for them?
So we are in the process of asking each of the department heads to submit plans for public access. Obviously, it is easier to control the environment with regard to directing employees to wear proper facial coverings and that type of thing. We are asking each of the department heads who govern facilities where the public would access to make sure that we have identified where we want people to stand if they are on some sort of line or queue, for instance, waiting to pay their property taxes or signing up for a recreation program. In addition to that, we will have signage made before the public is allowed to re-enter the building, indicating the requirement of wearing a mask and making sure that they are remaining socially distant, even as these requirements wind down to some degree. So we are asking all the department heads to submit plans with regard to each of those. Some of those will be uniform across the township. Others, as far as where people are going to enter and exit buildings, will be unique to each of the municipal facilities.
So, how will that be enforced? I mean, you have to trust the public to abide by those decisions. How can you ensure that then?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've taken notice of people who, are in takeout facilities, in the post office, different places that have remained open during the public health crisis. And for the most part, I would say there's probably better than 90% compliance amongst the public. So I think this new normal of wearing a mask and making sure that you're, standing up in the appropriate spaces while you're online, I think the public is becoming more accustomed to that. But, I'm sure we're going to have residents that either refuse to comply or we have to remind to comply. And we will be training staff in order to make sure that that the public is reminded how to act in order to maintain their own safety and the safety of our employees.
And you said it's going to be 250 by June 25th?
That is the limits that the governor suggested today. 100 people effective today, 250 by June 25th, and 500 by July 4th, which I think that date was probably chosen in case there are any type of public celebrations for the 4th of July holiday.
Yeah, that's going to give you an awful lot of space to keep 250 people 6 feet apart.
And I don't know that the 6 feet apart rule is going to continue to apply in the same way. So I think we're going to await further guidance on that. And listen, we're going to have some discussions internally about public meetings as well, which I know we've talked about all along. But now that these new guidelines come out with regard to indoor gatherings, as that number begins to increase, we'll have to start to talk about how we can return the land use boards to doing their work and the like. But we are having those discussions internally, and we'll be talking with the administration about that as we move forward.
Are you testing employees as they come in?
We are not. The requirement under the memorandum that was put out on May 27th was that we are asking employees to self-monitor, to take their temperature prior to coming to work. If they have an elevated temperature or they don't feel well, they're required to stay home. But we are not taking the temperature of employees at this point in time.
And they're not required to be tested?
To be tested for COVID?
No.
I'm sorry, that was a question. Are you asking if they are required to be tested for COVID?
Yeah.
Not unless we believe that there is a known exposure.
And how would you address that if there is an exposure and more people are affected by it? Say an employee.
So all of the decisions with regard to anyone who is exposed or believes that they are symptomatic has been driven by their own personal physician. We have not and will not get involved directly in trying to provide any type of healthcare advice to the employee. What we have done is we've referred them to either their own personal physician, or now, in speaking with County Administrator Bonani, we have the ability to send them to the testing facility in Morris County where a prescription is no longer required as of this week. So we have that option available to us. And if they are a municipal employee or especially a first responder, we can make a call ahead of time to make sure that they're tested on that particular day.
Okay, and all those things without them being tested or just depending on them to, provide any information about their health we feel is sufficient to protect the employees overall?
Yeah, I believe that our employees have been trained over the last 3 months to self-monitor, to disclose any type of potential exposure, to disclose if they're not feeling well and be proactive about staying home. I am very cautious about violating anybody's HIPAA rights. So, we are careful not to ask too many questions, but I think people understand that if they are not feeling well or they feel they might, be able to pass along the virus or any other illness for that matter to other employees, that they are all acting responsibly enough to stay home at this point.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor this, but, I think at the time they have a fever, they've already become COVID positive, which means that then there's a host of issues about who they were in contact with. So I'm just throwing this out there that, if we feel that we've taken every precaution we can, but, I don't think at the point of a fever is the time to have an employee stay home. That's just my opinion, or my concern, I should say. But
the only other thing that I will point out, and your point is well taken. I do believe that every employee, or most employees, I should say, have now been through this process or seen a colleague go through it or been educated through policy memo or whatever it happens to be, as to what steps they need to take if they believe they've been exposed or they are starting to feel under the weather. The one thing I will say about opening municipal government, and there's no doubt that I have been questioned about making the decision to reopen the township, but it's hard to remain closed when everything else is opening. And I think when the governor lifted the restriction on non-essential construction was an excellent point in that regard, because without the building department, without construction permits and zoning permits being issued, that non-essential construction would not be able to take place. So our reopening process has very much been in response to the governor lifting other restrictions in which we as a local government impact their ability to reopen their portion of the economy.
Yeah,
Keith,
I know that he said
that,
that
if I may.
doesn't mean we're making you go back to the office. I think he kind of expressed some hope that employees who could work from home would continue to work from home. I'm sorry, Mike.
That's all right. I was going to just ask Keith about, I see these thermometers that they just press on the forehead. It's like a little gun.
Mm-hmm.
They press on the forehead and instantaneously see if anyone has a fever. I don't think they would be very expensive, but one at each location wouldn't hurt to have some kind of a safeguard.
So I actually use one of those every morning, Mike, just to make sure I'm not going in ill. But what I will do, I will have a conversation, if that's something the council wants me to look into, with our health officer, Carlo, and make a determination as to what his position is on taking employees' temperatures as they arrive at work, rather than have them self-monitor at home. But I'll have that conversation with him tomorrow.
And it doesn't have to be every day. It could be periodically.
Sure.
Initially, everybody, and then periodically, once a week or whatever.
Understood. Point well
But
taken.
to Janice's point, you can be asymptomatic without a fever for up to 14 days prior to registering a fever, and it's that 2-week window that I think is the concern.
Well, it's hard to check for that.
Yeah, I will just submit to the council this as well. It is very difficult in local government to identify certain employees' ability to work from home versus other employees' ability to work from home. There are union contracts in place with certain bargaining units that have an impact on that. While we had the stay-at-home order in place and the public health emergency and state of emergency in place, we had some liberty to be able to govern outside of those contracts. But I can tell you, as a municipal manager who's been doing this for over 20 years, it is difficult to say to employee A, you can work from home, and to tell employee B that they have to report to work. So we're trying to do this. We're spacing people out. We're doing it in a responsible way. Employees have been directed how to protect their own public health and that of others. And I believe that we are doing this responsibly, and I believe we're also doing it fairly amongst our municipal workforce.
Do we, can I just ask a question? Do we have any liability should somebody contract it at work?
I'll yield to Mr. Lott on that through you, Council President.
We could probably talk more about that in closed session, but generally I would say no, we don't have any liability.
Mr. Kazmark, if I may, you and I have been in discussion with a gentleman, a resident that lives on Halsey, between Halsey and Kingston. And the gentleman was concerned about the seeding and the hay that was not properly put on the property when new curbing was done last year. This resident has been emailing me since July 22nd, 2019. And I know you and I have spoken about it, Mr. Kazmark, just recently. And the gentleman in question, the resident in question, has tilled the property himself, has seeded and has hayed the property. And I quote him, he felt that the efforts of the township and the contractor were underwhelming. So that the gentleman has done it himself, and I just received an email from him just the other day. One more point I'd like to ask, please, is I wanted to follow up regarding the request made by the council about job descriptions, and when will that information be forthcoming to us?
So if I may take those, I'll take them in reverse order. How's that?
Okay.
So through you, Council President, to Councilwoman Gragnani, I forwarded that request to the mayor's office. I am awaiting a response. So as soon as I have that information, Councilman Karifi also emailed me this morning regarding the same. So I've asked the mayor's office to provide those job descriptions to me so that I can get them to Mr. Madden and provide them to the full council. With regard to Halsey Road, I do want to publicly apologize to that resident. The contractor who did that work experienced a shutdown during the public health emergency. As it's been reported to me by our township engineer, Justin Lizza, that contractor and his employees fell very hard to COVID-19. There were employees there that were affected and forced him to shut down. I too was disappointed in his reaction time to abating that property issue on Halsey Road. But we will have a conversation with the contractor and possibly look for some sort of restitution to that resident based on the delay in responding to his request to fix his property.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions or reports from the Township Council?
Just a quick question. Is there any word on when the planning board is going to reconvene? I've had 2 residents reach out to me to ask.
So through you, Council President, to Councilmember Peterson, now that the governor has lifted the occupancy number for indoor gatherings, that is something that we will be meeting on before the end of the week with both Mr. King, the attorney from the zoning board, and Mr. Carlson, the attorney for the planning board, to try to revisit that conversation under the new guidelines in order to try to get some of these applications moving again. There have even been discussions about possibly moving those meetings to a place like the PAL so folks can be properly spaced out. But we'll be drilling down on that and making a decision sometime next week as to how we're going to proceed.
Okay, any other questions from the council or report? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and move on into the engineering report. 2020 road resurfacing, curb, and sidewalk program. The project was bid in April, and a pre-construction meeting will be scheduled once contracts are signed. Construction activities are planned to begin in late June and to be completed by the beginning of September. No council action required. Green Bank Road Safety and Improvements Project. The Green Bank Road Improvement Project construction started in mid-May. Construction is anticipated to be substantially completed by early August. No council action required. Various Streets Reconstruction Project. Construction began on the Various Streets Reconstruction Project. Construction activities are scheduled to be substantially complete by the beginning of August. No council action required. New England Drive Milling and Paving Project. The New England Drive Milling and Paving Project pre-construction meeting was held and construction work is scheduled to start by the end of June. Work is planned to continue through the beginning of September. No council action required. Simpson Avenue Retaining Wall Project. The Simpson Avenue Retaining Wall Project pre-construction meeting was held and construction work is scheduled to start by the end of June. Work is planned to continue until late July. No council action required. Projects ready for bid. Mount Tabor Street Improvements Phase 5 and Veterans Park Culvert Replacement projects are ready for bidding. Scheduled this month with awards anticipated in August. No council action required. Roadway design projects. The following projects are in design: Pudding Stone Heights Road Improvements and the various culvert repair project. These projects will be bid once design documents are finalized. Construction is anticipated to start later in the summer. No council action required. Community Rating System Program. We continue to work with our consultant and the NJDEP to get back into the CRS program. This program provides discounts on flood insurance policies based on level of activities in which the township participates. The work will continue through at least the end of this year. No council action required. Endorsement of the NJDOT Municipal Aid Grant. We are in the process of preparing and submitting a grant application through the NJDOT Municipal Aid Grant Program. The application is for the first phase of the North Beverick Road Street Escape improvements from Claudine Terrace to Minnehaha Boulevard. The project includes curbing, drainage improvements, sidewalk widening, streetscape improvements, resurfacing of the roadway, and enhanced traffic stripping and markings. A resolution endorsing the application will need to be adopted by the Township Council. Performance bond release, Verizon New Jersey. Verizon New Jersey completed all work associated with the right-of-way opening permit. Inspections were made during the course of the work, and this office has no objection to the release of the performance bond number 105777073. A resolution will need to be adopted by Township Council. Performance bond release, Parsippany Hanover Realty, Block 202, Lot 6.04. The developer completed all work associated with their major soil moving permit. Inspections were made during the course of construction, and this office has no objection to the release of performance bond number 106960289. A resolution will need to be adopted by the Township Council. At this point, we're going to go into bids. Taken, April 22nd, 2020, well redevelopment services, pumping system, replacements, April 23rd, 2020, 2020 road resurfacing curb and sidewalk program, April 24th, 2020, Smithfield Park, D, field improvements. To be taken, June 24th, 2020, powder mill tank rehabilitation, quotation, proposal, qualifications, none. And now we're going into the public hearing. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to open up the public hearing.
Make a motion.
I need a second.
Second, Jack McCarthy.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Carriffy, second by Ms. McCarthy. Roll call. Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. McCarthy? Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Okay, at this time, the floor is open to the public. I do see there are public attendees, and I do have one public attendee who raised his hand. I remind the public, if you would like to speak, to please raise your hand, and we will put you on. So at this point in time, we have Mr. Ken Dulski. Ken, are you there? It's connecting. Ken, if you're listening, you need to pick audio device. All right, Ken? I'm going to go ahead and try. Ken, you there?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. How are you, Ken?
Oh, you can hear me now. Okay.
Ken, the floor is yours, Ken. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No problem at all.
Zoom is a lot more user friendly. And anyway, good evening, Ken Dolsky, 21 Winfield Drive. I'll just say I'm happy to see that the town has been, or the progress, or at least improvement that's been made in terms of the number of new COVID cases. It looks like we're down to pretty close to zero, and hopefully that will we'll see a lot of zeros going forward. But I have a question tonight, which has to do with the conformance. So I understand that the township has petitioned the Highlands Council, and as part of that, the township has submitted materials to support its request. I further understand that the Highlands Council has asked for confirmation that the town has finished with its submission and is not going to have any other, they're not going to submit any further requests that need to be addressed as part of the petition. And the reason I'm asking about this is that there is a whole process that the council then has to go through, which takes about 1.5 months to 2 months in order for them to finally approve and vote on the petition. Subsequent to that, the township will be able to pass what is called a referral ordinance, and I won't go into any details on it, but that will enable the town to kind of short circuit the whole process and immediately have the protection of the Highlands Regional Master Plan in terms of its land use, efforts. And so the bottom line in this is that it's important for the town to move along with all due speed in enabling the Highlands Council to vote on the petition. And I've been in touch with Susan Favate about this and with Janice. So my question is, have we in fact responded back to the Highlands Council that we have finished with our submissions and that they can proceed to use that information in the process to get us into conformance?
Is that your only question, Ken?
Yes.
Okay. At this point in time, I will turn that over to either Mr. Lott or Ms. Favate, who is here. Okay. Susan, are you there?
I think Susan's
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. I'm sorry, Jim, what were you saying?
I think Susan can probably give the latest on where we stand with Highlands.
Not a problem. Susan, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Apologies. This is the first time I've ever used this format. Thank you for your question, Mr. Dolsky. We have been in contact. He sent me a couple emails. As part of the Highlands conformance petition process, the scope that we submitted to the Highlands Council and they signed off on required us to basically submit things as they were done, the different pieces of the petition. We now have a full draft petition that we'll be discussing with Township Council tonight. It's nearly identical to everything that the Highlands Council has previously seen, and they know that we're discussing it tonight, and hopefully we can submit them the final draft as soon as possible after tonight's meeting, assuming that the Township Council signs off on it. Ultimately, the council needs to be comfortable with sending it to the Highlands. Once that's done, we can get on their schedule for a public hearing. I think, as Mr. Dolsky referenced, there is a little bit of lag time. There's a 30-day public comment requirement. So I've been in regular contact with the Highlands Council on the schedule of their hearings for the rest of the summer. And we've been kind of working toward either the July or August. So it really kind of depends on how comfortable the Township Council is. But we are moving expeditiously through that process. That's kind of where we are. So I'm not sure what Mr. Dulski was referring to on the Highlands Council waiting from us, to hear from us. They know our schedule. They know that it's being discussed tonight, and I'm going to be following up with Highlands Council probably tomorrow just to tell them how tonight went, and give them a sense of the timing going forward.
Okay, because I did not see anything on the agenda tonight that covered that issue. And second, we did receive an email from Lisa Plevin saying, they want to hear that we are finished with our submissions so that they can move along in their process. Yeah, they need a full petition before they can schedule the hearing, certainly. Yes. And we're working toward that. Okay, and is that on the agenda? Because I didn't see anything on the agenda tonight regarding that.
It's
Through you, Council President. It's listed for executive session, Mr. Dulski.
Oh, okay. Secret information, huh? All right.
No secret.
I think Mr. Lott should explain why it's been listed for executive session, so we have full transparency here.
No secret information, Mr. Dulski. Some attorney-client discussion with respect to the legal requirements in order for us to submit a petition.
Okay. All right. Last comment is that I would just appreciate hearing, getting some feedback and understanding where we are after that session. Thank you.
Through you, Council President. Susan, could you explain the process if the council is in agreement to move forward after Mr. Lott's discussion so that Mr. Dulski has some context as to where we go from here?
Sure. If the council is okay tonight with sending the petition along, it could be done as early as tomorrow. It's basically ready to go. I had sent it late last week. It's not a short document, so I think it might be good for Township Council members just to take a little bit of time with it. But if they're comfortable, if you all have looked at it and you're comfortable sending along, that's fine, and we can send it right along to Highlands Council. They have their regular meeting in July. I think is on the 16th. So I've already been in discussion with them about the fact that that's cutting it a little bit close. I mean, if they got it this week, the staff still needs to review it, and then they need to schedule the hearing and have 30 days for public comment. So that's a little bit tight. It always was with the timing of this meeting. The next meeting is August 20th. So I don't think that there will be any issue getting on in the agenda for that meeting. There's plenty of time for the public comment period for that meeting.
Okay, do I have any other member from the public? Okay, I have Mr. Homiak here, so I'm going to go ahead. Nick, if you're listening, okay, you need to pick audio device. There you go. Nick, are you there? Nick? It looks like you did pick the audio device. Maybe you want to turn, maybe you're on mute. Nick. Okay, you there, Nick? Nick, if you're listening, there may be more than one device that you might have to pick. If you pick the wrong one, just unclick it and try again. Nick?
Can I say something while Nick is trying to figure out his audio? And if he gets through, I will immediately stop talking.
Yeah, hold on one second. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Emily.
I've been in contact with a number of municipalities around Morris County and Essex County, and every single one of them is using Zoom. And I know that the decision to go with Zoho may have been made prior to Zoom putting in a security patch, and that there was a concern for people pirating into meetings. And now we have added security that Zoom has provided that includes passwords and allowing people into meetings. And it would do away with a number of the issues that we are experiencing, and it has become the industry standard and is being used widely both in the public and private sector. So I would like to ask Colette, could you please ask Dave Miller to reevaluate the decision to not use Zoom, despite the fact that all of our peers appear to be doing so without the problems that we seem to be trying to mitigate?
I absolutely will, Councilmember Peterson. Nick, how you making out over there, Nick?
Colette, can I make a recommendation that maybe you give out your office landline number if anybody wants to participate in the meeting? And then this way they can participate by telephone in order to participate in the public hearing. Because
that is a great recommendation, Mr. Business Administrator. Nick Homiak and everyone that is listening in, please, if you, Nick, especially you right now, I can see you're trying to get in. If you'd like, call me at 263-4358. And I will ensure you're able to speak right now. Thank you, Keith. Nick, once again, the number is 973-263-4358.
Man.
Nick, here we go. Yes, we hear you.
You can hear me?
I can hear you, Nick.
Wow. I don't know what I did.
I don't know what you did, but I'm sure glad you did it.
All right. I'm glad Ken Dolsky brought up the Highlands. And there's also an element to this once we get going. It's known as the referral ordinance. In the past, I and other people are calling it a checklist approach. But to make a long story short, with different land use issues coming up, we can put these landscapes priority and give it over to Highlands for their scrutiny to either stop the development or curtail the scope of the development. So I hope that the council and the mayor and everybody becomes familiar with the term referral ordinance. And I think it was May the 10th, I was traveling over to Florham Park, and the same day in Parsippany, down on South Beverwick Avenue and into Whippany and Hanover, it was the same day for the sanitation pickup. The difference in the behavior of the sanitation crews between our town and crossing the border was amazing. Every sanitation receptacle was being put back in its proper place, wasn't being left in the street, wasn't being tossed, there wasn't loose garbage around. And in that town, it seems that they have, let's say, first-class garbage cans with tops. They have their town emblem on them. And I don't know if that's possible to do in Parsippany, but the conscious discipline of the sanitation worker seems to be in step with how we really should be treating our neighborhoods and our residents. So I sent something in writing. I don't know if it was presented to the council or not. When the last session, I used PT clerk like before. And if they're going to make any improvements up there on North Beverwick Avenue, they need to get them storm drains to close the narrow entrance from all that plastic debris that's generated up there. And hopefully they'll increase the street cleaning up there. And I still say the only way to do it right is a manual street cleaner. And, you know, I guess that's about it. And I would just hope that we do have a sanitation inspector, and I think he should spend more time looking around here in town because there is a lot of violations and they should be addressed. It's the only way we're going to improve. And we should use his job title to the benefit of us all. He doesn't have to fine anybody unless it's necessary, but you got to get around and stick your nose in people's business every now and then, and things will get better. So, all right, I can't wait to get back to the town hall. And the other thing here with the St. Christopher's and the GTP proposal for the senior home, we should wait until we can open up an auditorium in the school for that, because it's gonna be packed. It's another water view coming, and we can't let the people down. We have to help maintain the neighborhood character, and we need a lot of space for that, and we're going to fill it. So we should wait for the school to be available, and we could fill up the school. So, all right, I'm glad I learned how to use this, and thank you for the help I got during this episode.
Thank you, Nick. Anyone else that would like to speak during this public portion?
Colette, if I just may make a comment. As far as Nick, that may just be a particular crew issue. I know the crew that does my neighborhood, they always put the garbage cans back in a neat fashion. They do an excellent job. So it may just be an individual crew, but the crew that does my neighborhood, they do a great job.
Hey, thank you, Councilmember Carriffy. Anyone else that would like to speak during this public portion? All right, seeing no one else, I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Mr. Carriffy. Roll call, Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Okay, floor is closed. I now ask the council to please review the ordinances just for review. If you have any questions, please do so now.
I have one. Item number 1, establishing white-collar salary ranges. I thought we were done with all the salaries.
So through you, Council President, these salary ranges will be applicable for 2020, and they will, for white-collar employees, and they will reflect all of the numbers that we have previously discussed in the 2020 municipal budget, which is set for adoption next week.
Didn't we already vote on this?
No. You agreed to place the money into the budget based on your and my budget discussions. And I know Councilmember Grignani was involved in that as well. All this will do is confirm the 2% adjustment and any other money that was budgeted for that we discussed. It must be approved by salary ordinance in order to process those through payroll once this is adopted and the budget is adopted as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. Also, just we have the one ordinance under the second reading and public hearing. If you just review that.
Well,
Okay.
I have one more, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Item number 7.
Yes.
What agency is that for that fire
So,
prevention?
through you, Council President, Fire Prevention has their own trust fund that is monies that are collected from permit fees relative to that division. So what we're using is that funding, so it has no effect on the municipal budget. We're using that fund to replace one of the vehicles that is no longer operational.
So they're actually providing the funding for it with just the vehicle to purchase.
You're just authorizing the purchase. It has no effect on the municipal budget because it's coming out of their trust fund, again, which is collected through permit fees and fines.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, at this point in time, we're going to move to the non-consent agenda. We have 4 items to be voted on. I'm going to go right into it. Resolution 2020-120, authorizing a 2020 Level 1 Capital Preservation Grant application from the Preserve New Jersey Historic Preservation for the Bowlesby Dalgic House. Motion to approve.
Bowlesby DeGallaghy.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Council President.
Make a motion.
Need a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
And Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Resolution 2020-121, supporting the federal fiscal year 2019 Department of Homeland Security Emergency Management Agency Assistance Subgrant number FY19-IMPG-EMAA-1429 for the period of July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020. I need a motion.
Make a motion.
Need a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
And Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Okay, we're moving right along. Resolution 2020-122, designating Township Clerk to endorse COVID-19 expansion permit. Need a motion, please?
Make a motion.
Need a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy? Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Motion passes. Resolution 2020-123, authorizing the zoning official to establish application requirements and conditions for special use permit for temporary outdoor dining and waiving any permit fee related to same. I need a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
And Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Okay, at this time, I just ask you to review the items on the consent agenda. Do we have any questions for the consent agenda?
Yeah, I do. On Sunbright, why, what's the change? Is there a change in the janitorial services for the police department? Or is this expanding services? And, you know, why did you go out for a bid?
So that's resolution number 4, so I'll turn that over to the business administrator.
I believe that the contract expired, but I want Ann Cucci to confirm that for me because I don't want to give you bad information. Ann, are you on the call?
I am on the call. I believe it is that it's expired and that it's been extended, but they also have been providing quite a bit of additional cleaning for the police department and all of actually a number of buildings in the town. So, but I'll confirm that for you, Keith.
And just to remind the council that we are coding all of the expenditures relative to COVID from all of our various cleaning services, in order to make sure that we can be reimbursed through the CARES Act funding in order to make the township whole.
Was there someone else here before? Why wouldn't we know when the contract was terminating?
Janice, there's many different contractors, but this particular contractor does certain buildings like the police and I believe the community center as well. So because we've expanded the type of cleaning we're doing, especially for the police, because they're there every day and we need to make sure that it's clean. But I'll get a little more information for you and get it to Colette of exactly what that is.
Thank you.
Also, their 2-year contract is for less than $40,000. I think it was $36,000 and change. Is that why this did not go out for public bid?
That is correct. The bid threshold with Mr. Hardy's qualified purchasing agent certificate is $40,000. So that is why it did not go out for public bid. If it was in excess of that amount, the contract total, then it would have been required to under the local contracts law.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, at this time, I'm going to go over to the approval of payroll and bills list. CFO Ncucci recommends authorization for payment. Number one, authorized payment of the June 12, 2020 regular miscellaneous payroll estimated at $1,600,000 each. Then number two, payment of bills from voucher list of June 15, 2020 through June 17, 2020, totaling $1,196,657. I need a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call. Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. DePiro?
Yes.
Motion passes. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and read the executive session resolution. Before I do, I would like to remind the members of the council and the administration at the bottom of the right-hand corner where your picture is, there are two buttons. They have the microphone and the video button. Both must be clicked in order to effectively mute, and then we will move into the call-in number, and you guys will use the participation code that was texted to you. So with that being said, I will go ahead and read the executive session resolution. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Council is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, whereas the Township Council wishes to discuss Highlands petition potential updates, adjustments to land use classifications, Edwards Road, litigation, NJ, Brain and Spine Center, and personnel chief of police contract. And whereas minutes will be kept, and once matters involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires confidentiality, the minutes can be made public. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills that the public be excluded from this meeting. I need a motion to adjourn into closed session.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. I now ask everybody to please effectively mute, and the recording will be paused at this point. And please, so we had a motion by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. DePiro?
Yes.
Okay, at this time, I now will ask everybody to effectively mute, and I will ask that the recording be paused. Okay, we are on the record. Motion to reconvene into open session, please.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. We are now back into open session. Could I please have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Carriffy. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go into the roll call. Open session, I apologize. We had a motion by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
And Mr. DePiro?
Yes.
Okay, we are back in open session. Could I please have a motion to adjourn again?
Make a motion.
And
Second.
no motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
And Mr. DePiro?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. You all have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
Come on.